Dr. Sharif Abdullah offers a unique, hopeful, and visionary perspective on the persistent challenges of our time. His perspective is shaped by his urban upbringing of poverty and violence, his Ivy League education, and his work with impacted communities in America and in 45 countries around the world. His spiritual outlook is rooted in the consciousness of dozens of religions, faith traditions, and spiritual practices. Sharif offers this unique viewpoint, helping us chart a course that explains where we've been, where we are now, and how we get to a positive future that works for all living beings.
Greetings, Sharif here. And today I'm going to talk about death. In one of my earlier videos, I talked about the process of birth, the process of a personal human birth, and also the process of a societal birth. And I said, if you know that that something is being born and being born through you, you can cooperate with the process, and we are giving birth to a new society. Similarly, though, we're watching the end of our old society. We're watching a society that is just beginning its death throes, just beginning to understand that things are going to go away. Things are going to pass on. We begin to think that institutions are permanent and are going to last forever, and nothing human-made lasts forever. Rome dies. And when Rome dies, it takes an awful lot of the surrounding territory with it. Now, we've seen this. We've been seeing the handwriting on the wall for a few decades. We've seen it on the wall. We've ignored it for a few decades. We're still ignoring it. We're acting like the things that have happened around the world are things that have happened to someone else, to those people over there, that these things can't possibly happen to us, because in some way that we can't even begin to understand or explain, we're special. Bad things don't happen to the United States of America. One of the things that I have had both the privilege, the honor, and the burden is to see our world for what it truly is. To not hear about it, to not have conjectures about it, but to actually, with my own two eyes, to see what's happening in our world. And what I have seen has said to me that not only can it happen here, it will happen here. I'm thinking in particular about a few things. I was in Russia when the Soviet Union collapsed down into this other state called Russia. That the Soviet Union sent cosmonauts up into space, and the country they landed back in wasn't the Soviet Union anymore. It was Kazakhstan or one of the other stands. It was a separate country. The Soviet Union went away, and it went away literally overnight. What would happen if our government literally went away overnight? Are you prepared to be the next government of the next state that will replace the United States of America, because everything dies? Get over it. I was in Argentina when their economy died. I mean, and I mean by died, I mean it literally died overnight. People were left with the money they had in their pockets. That's all the money they had in the world, because all the banks were emptied overnight. All those numbers that you think you have in the bank, they're just numbers. And if the numbers don't work, something else will happen. Now, I saw what happened in Argentina, and I saw it with my own two eyes. I saw people who were formerly comfortably middle-class people pulling through other people's garbage, looking for something to eat, looking for, somebody's refuse, something that somebody would put in the trash can, and looking to see whether or not they could eat that. Now, we say that could never happen here to middle-class people. And I say, just wait. If you don't want to do any work right now to make sure that doesn't happen, well, wait, and then you'll figure out something to do, but you won't have the resources to do it with. I was in Cuba during the what they call the special period, when their entire society melted down. I was talking to a man who was saying that the way that they survived was eating each other's cats and dogs. He said he loved his dog, and he said, I couldn't eat my dog. But I staked it out in the yard. I knew my neighbor would come and take the dog and kill it and roast it and eat it because that's all the food that we had. And he said, I know that my neighbor would do that because that's what I did with his dog. I cooked it and I ate it. Now, we say, no, that could never happen in the United States. That couldn't, things like that, we heard about things like that, but it couldn't happen here. Well, keep believing that, and good luck with that. I think there's another answer to this, and the answer is to get prepared. And I don't mean by prepared what the so-called preppers do in terms of getting 50,000 pounds of powdered milk and storing it somewhere and getting a bunch of guns to protect it. There are other things that we can do. There are elegant things that we can do to prepare for the time when we are actually relying on ourselves and, most importantly, relying on each other. I was in Sri Lanka when it looked like they were going to go into a perpetual war between the government on one hand and the Tamil Tigers on the other hand. And there's nothing that regular people could do. Except there was a lot that regular people could do to cut that nonsense out and to get to a point where not only the guns fell silent, but we got to a point where people could actually talk directly to each other about the issues that were affecting each other. Now, can that happen here? Well, yes, it can happen if we, not the government, not those people over there, but we, regular human beings, start talking directly to each other. We're setting up a situation here with Commonway so that you can begin to pull together with your neighbors, with your friends, and most importantly, with your others, to have a conversation around what does our society look like as we're heading into the 21st century. What does our society look like as we are using the best of our hearts, the best of our minds, to create a society that is relational, that is inclusive of all living beings, that is inclusive of our highest aspirations that lie inside of our hearts, that where we rid ourselves of our fears, where we rid ourselves of our anxieties. What does it look like? How good does that make you feel? And then, once we get that vision, once we grasp that vision, then we'll implement it. Now, is that going to happen overnight? Probably not. Is it going to happen in a year? It could. It depends on how many of us get active in seeking that vision. It depends on whether or not you get active in seeking that vision. So in the next days or weeks, you're going to be hearing more from me about this, about how to get involved in the process of envisioning a brand new society, a society that actually works for all living beings. Till that time, stay tuned and thank you.
You are invited to participate in the discussions and activities that will define a positive future for all. We are at the cusp of the expansion of our human consciousness, beyond the limitations of our past. Together, we can envision a world that embraces our human potential. Together, we can create a world that can truly work for all living beings.